Welcome back to another Funliner News video. Unfortunately, this is not a video that I wanted to make, but there has been some news in the activity, which I'm sure you guys have already heard. But about a week ago, the Mandarins announced that they would not be fielding a drum corps this season in 2026. So I wanted to go ahead and take a look at the statement that they announced and just talk about what this means for the Mandarins and what this means for drum corps as a whole. So let's go ahead and start by reading the announcement that the organization made last week. All right, so this is titled Mandarins Drum and Bugle Corps announces strategic hiatus for 2026 season. Strategic hiatus, interesting wording, definitely sounds a lot more palatable than folding or canceled. So interesting strategic wording, I guess, too, as well. So let's read what they said. Mandarins Performing Arts has announced that the Mandarins Drum and Bugle Corps will take a hiatus from the 2026 Drum Corps International season as part of a comprehensive strategy to strengthen organizational infrastructure, enhance member experience, and ensure long-term sustainability amid evolving economic conditions affecting the performing arts nationwide. Okay, so let's go ahead and break that down. Comprehensive strategy to strengthen organizational infrastructure. To me, that reads as just like there's not enough money. At least this is what I'm inferring. Like, organizational infrastructure means usually that there's just not enough money to make things happen. Enhanced member experience. Yeah, I've heard a little bit about how some of the member experience wasn't quite the best, maybe due to just housing experience or food, and ensure long-term sustainability amid evolving economic conditions affecting the performing arts nationwide. So that's an interesting, I don't know exactly what they're referring to. It's interesting how they kind of blanket it to everyone is being affected by this. And so this is kind of something that we are also dealing with. So interesting opening statement here. Let's move on. The decision reflects our commitment to thoughtful growth and the continued pursuit of excellence, said Dr. Daniel Fong, President and CEO of Mandarins Performing Arts. The Mandarins organization has a proud history of innovation and resilience, taking a single season to retool our systems, evaluate touring logistics, and invest in creative and instructional development will position us for even greater success moving forward. Okay, so, resilience, great. Yes, the Mandarins have probably dealt with problems in the past and they've overcome them. They have a proud history of innovation and resilience. Now, taking a single season to retool our systems, evaluate touring logistics. Yeah, maybe that just means making a smarter tour, for people who maybe are not familiar with what goes into a drum corps season. Evaluating touring logistics, it could just be as simple as, your tour path that you go through the country. There's more cost-effective ways to get around the country, and there's less ones as well. Like, the Boston Crusaders came all the way to California this year at the beginning of the season, and that was a strategic, competitive decision to come all the way to California, and that is not a cheap one to make as well. So it costs a lot of money to do that. The Bluecoats are actually going to be doing that this season. They're going to be coming to California at the beginning of 2026 competitive season. So yeah, stuff like that in terms of determining where you're going to go, that it impacts the budget a lot as well. Purely from gas alone to power all of these 16 wheelers, all the buses, all the prop trucks. There's a lot of money just in gas alone that has become so expensive over the years. So that makes an impact as well. But invest in creative and instructional development. I don't know what that means. They just had a little bit of a staff change as well this year in their visual team. Last year, they had a staff change in their percussion team. I don't know what taking a year off is, how investing in creative and instructional development will develop in a year. Unless that means something has changed in the behind the scenes that we don't know about. But let's move on to the next part of the statement. During the 2026 hiatus, the Mandarins will continue their extensive year-round music education and community outreach programs. They just say it right here, including Immortal Winds, Mandarins Music Academy, Mandarins Pathways, Mandarins Summer Camps, and school partnerships that support music education throughout the Sacramento region as well as the DCI Capital Classic. So yeah, I mean most every drum corps has a bunch of other things other than just the drum corps. You may if you're not like familiar, or if you haven't marched, you probably don't know that there's a lot of other supplementary things that are involved in an organization, not just the drum corps. At the Blue Devils, for example, there's the Blue Devils A corps, but there's also the B corps, and then there's the C corps, and then there's Blue Devils Entertainment. Blue Devils is probably like the most extensive example of a drum corps that has other facets that bring in revenue and also just help educate. So there's a lot of other things that are involved, but this is, I guess, Mandarins letting us know that those other things are still going to happen, which is great. Love that for the organization. The organization will also focus on program design, staff development, equipment upgrades, and strategic financial planning in preparation for a highly anticipated return to the DCI Tour in 2027. Okay, interesting. So during this time, they're going to get more equipment upgrades and new, maybe staff development. Not sure what that means. Strategic financial planning. I think they're just trying to budget and prepare for the next season. Makes sense. Every major organization benefits from moments of reflection and recalibration, said Kathleen Davies, chair of board of directors. This strategic pause ensures that the Mandarins remain an enduring force within Drum Corps International and a leader in providing transformative performance experiences for youth. So, yeah, I mean, of course, this is not the end for the Mandarins. Having this break is clearly a strategic move with full intent to come back in 2027. Hope that happens, but let's continue. The Mandarins extend deep appreciation to their members, alumni, fans, and the entire DCI community for their continued encouragement and look forward to rejoining the tour in 2027 with renewed creativity, energy, and vision. To our Mandarins family, your dedication, pride, and spirit have built a legacy that continues to inspire. The pause in our competitive schedule is a deliberate step to ensure that our future is even stronger than our past. We are investing in the systems, people, and creativity that will shape the next era of Mandarins excellence. Yeah, so this is very intentionally made to make sure that everyone understands that the Mandarins are fully planning to come back in 2027. I think that sometimes when a corps announces that they're, going on hiatus, a lot of people are wondering, is this the end? This is just like the first domino that is inevitably lead to their kind of downfall. But, well, no pun intended, sorry, from last year's Mandarin show. But they're very much kind of laying out and explicitly stating that they are planning to come back in 2027, which is great. We thank you for your unwavering support and belief in what the Mandarins stand for: excellence, family, and transformation through performance. Together, we look forward to 2027 and beyond with excitement and confidence. With gratitude and respect, Kathleen Davies, Chair, Board of Directors, and Dr. Daniel Fong, President and CEO of Mandarins Performing Arts. Okay, so that is the statement. Pretty clear. It's pretty clear, kind of explaining the issues that they had and the plan moving forward. So in statements like this, I think that's like kind of the main thing that I look for, at least, is like, okay, tell us why, and then tell us what the plan is, and then tell us what is going to happen. And so it's pretty clear that although they didn't explicitly say like we ran out of money, I think that's kind of what happened. They didn't explicitly say the details of how and why and what happened, but from what we can understand, there are financial struggles that they're dealing with, and they, in order to even come back in 2027, they need to take this year off, and they've explicitly said they're coming back in 2027. So all right, so what do we think about this, right? We've seen this before. The Santa Clara Vanguard, most recently, they took a year off. They had a hiatus where they stopped their season in 2023 and came back in 2024. And so this is not something new, and it's kind of maybe something that we're seeing become more of a trend now of drum corps, that with the cost of this activity rising, corps aren't able to manage a year to year kind of like system. Some of them we may see more corps basically having to take a year off to catch up with the financial kind of toll that it takes to make a drum corps season happen. But speaking of Santa Clara Vanguard, let's take a look back at what they said, because they're probably the greatest example of someone that actually did this correctly, or actually did what they said they were going to do, which is take a year off. Because I remember when Santa Clara Vanguard announced that they were not coming back in the 2023 season and they were going to come back in 2024, we were all skeptical of that. We were all wondering if this is the end for Santa Clara Vanguard. But they came back in 2024, won the drum trophy, and they came back the next year in 2025 and were third place. So they clearly made great strides to correcting their course. So let's take a look at what they said to kind of get an idea of what the precedent is that was set. So Santa Clara Vanguard in December of 2022 made the announcement that it is with grief and sorrow that we must announce the cessation of operations for the Santa Clara Vanguard for the 2023 season. Throughout the past months, a multiplicity of financial stressors have culminated into an unavoidable financial shortfall. This shortfall has been made more insurmountable by lower than expected bingo earnings and the rising cost of summer travel and tour overhead. So right off the bat, to me, Vanguard was way more explicit with exactly what went wrong. Like, they pretty much put it straight out there, said, we don't have money, and this money makes it so we can't tour. And the reason we don't have money is because of unexpected bingo earnings and also the rise of cost of summer travel. So, like, it's so clear. They very transparently explained exactly what went wrong. Going on, it says, throughout the past months, the VMAPA board has worked very hard with executive leadership to explore creative financing options, drastic budget cuts, and creative fundraising options designed to bridge Vanguard into a more lucrative future. Each of these options had the result of lowering the quality of the member and employee experience and leaving VMAPA in a far more vulnerable financial position after the tour of 2023. The summer of 2022 was extremely expensive throughout the entire drum corps activity. The cost of goods and services necessary for the 2023 tour have risen even higher than the cost of the 2022 tour. Without the ability to accurately forecast many of the variable costs, for example, fuel, food, supplies, in the summer of 2023, the cost of 2023 promises to be more than we can accurately project. In addition, Bingo is seeing substantial and sustained lower income as customers deal with the higher cost of goods and services in their own lives. So, yeah, again, more specific examples of what they are worried about and what could go wrong and exactly what's going to happen. So then they said, what we're doing about this, VMAPA is very close to opening a second bingo game that will provide much needed funding to right the current budget shortfall. The second bingo was scheduled to open in late 2021. Due to a complicated set of circumstances outside the control of VMAPA, this game remains dependent upon the Redwood City Council adopting a proposal and passing a civil resolution. 2023 looks promising for this new location as we continue to lobby for this resolution. Additionally, a special task force of volunteers continue to seek more gaming opportunities. The cessation of Santa Clara Vanguard this year creates solvency and time to restructure the VMAPA organization to meet the financial demands of the future. More efforts for financial development are also underway. So again, they explicitly said what they're going to do down to the exact details of the plan. They were trying to open a second bingo hall. That didn't happen because of certain things that were out of their control, but we have all the pieces to understand kind of what went wrong. Is there more stuff that happened behind the scenes at Vanguard that have led to this that we don't know about? Surely. That's not about kind of what I'm arguing here or what I'm making a point of. But the fact is that they let the people know, I think, very clearly what exactly led to what happened, and what they're going to do about it. And clearly it worked. Whatever they changed worked. So now if we take this in context and compare it to what we saw from the Mandarins, I think the Mandarins announcement was a little more general. I don't want to say vague, but it was more general. And I think that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. The Mandarins doesn't necessarily need to give us all the details. I think that, the Mandarins, the people that are, trying to solve this, I'm sure have the most, the same interest that we do. We want to see the Mandarins back on the field. We want to see them successful. So I don't think that there is necessarily some, malpractice going on, but it is a little interesting that we don't have more explicit details about what went wrong or why the Mandarins are, not fielding a core this summer. So that's kind of the statement that the Mandarins have made. But let's also take a look at the response from the community. Let's take a look at some of the comments that have been left on these announcement posts. Let's start with this one. This one says, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I've seen too many cores take a year off to never return. I hope this is not the case for the Mandarins. Yes, again, this is the fear that a lot of cores have. You know, the cadets most recently are the most recent core to fold. Although I think their announcement was a little bit more explicit, saying we're done. It's not happening ever again. It's over. So, you know, I think there's a little more hope because the Mandarins announcement is very clearly, you know, looking towards the future versus what happens with the cadets. But you know, it's not invalid of a fear to look at this and be like, I'm worried that they're never going to return. And I'm not going to say that that's not a possibility. I think there is a possibility that the Mandarins may not have may not have it to come back. But I hope that that is not the case. Let's take a look at another comment. This one says, has taking a year off helped any other cores? Or is it just a sign that the end is coming? We already talked about this. Santa Clara Vanguard did exactly that. They took off a year and they came back and they've been stronger than ever, honestly. But the second part of this comment, or is it just a sign that the end is coming? There is some validity to this. Like, the cost of drum corps is rising so much every year. And so the fact that we're seeing, you know, not just like, you know, maybe a smaller corps in the lower part of the competitive field struggling, we're seeing a top 12 core, a top 7 core having to do this, and with the Vanguard, a top 5 core having to take a year off. This is not an isolated incident that is just, you know, a rare occasion. This is happening to everyone, I think. So is it a sign that the end is coming? Not the end necessarily, but it is a sign that there is change that is probably going to need to happen very soon. This comment says, financial problems killed the local competitions. Let's go back to good music, good drill, and good guards. Those days created excellent shows based on skill and not extras like props and sets. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy today's shows, but they have limited the number of kids financially able to participate, and in the whole, there are very few children of color. Okay, so, you know, there's a lot of loaded sentiment in this. Some of it has to do with just wanting the old days of drum corps, which I understand, and preference for sure. But, you know, talking about like local competitions, I do think that there is something to take from a comment like this, which is that, you know, like drum corps used to be very, very local. Like it used to not be such a like national tour. It used to be a very local circuit type competition, and then eventually everyone would come together, or the best groups would come together for the final competition. And you know, I've talked about this before in the past, but I do think that that's where this activity might be heading. And I think a lot of people hear that and are afraid of that, but I think that if you think about indoor drumline or indoor guard, like that's what we do there. We have our individual circuits and we have our whole season where we compete regionally, and then everyone comes together for the finals. And the activity is amazing. If you've watched, you know, WGI finals, you'll know that the activity is still amazing and thriving and awesome to enjoy. And so if that happens with drum corps, yes, it will be, you know, sad to see the traditional tour that we are used to go, but it doesn't necessarily mean that drum corps will end in any way. So I think that, you know, this might be where we're heading back towards, but I do think that the activity will still be exciting as it always has been. And so let's go ahead and take a look at some final statements and from other people involved in the organization. So this is from JW Kester, and he says, hello, all my friends. Wow, I'm still in shock from the announcement that the Mandarins organization posted last night that the drum corps is going to take the 2026 season off. Yes, I played a part and provided some information for the board of directors in order for them to make their decision. Was it a decision made lightly? Absolutely not. Was it only financially based? Absolutely not. Any decision of this magnitude is never based on one single point or issue. This is very interesting that he made a point to say that it was not just financial. That makes me wonder what else is going on behind the scenes. But he made it very clear that this is not just a financial decision. Right now, I am feeling so much pain and sorrow for the amazing veteran members who are planning to come back, to the wonderful staff who returned and were ready to spend another year creating new memories together, and to the young people who were ready to join the 2026 Mandarins and make their memories. This is where my head is at right now. I also believe that the Mandarin organization will bring drum corps back onto the competitive field because that is part of our organizational DNA. That is who we are, and I look forward to what the next Mandarins Drum Corps chapter brings. Mandarins members and staff, stay strong, stay positives, stay family wherever you are. Ciao. Okay, so yeah, like this last part of the sentiment was more for the staff and the members, and I echo this for sure. I feel so strongly for anyone who marched the Mandarins, even if you aged out. I think it is really tough to see a group that you are so emotionally invested in and have, consider home, seeing them not come back. And especially for the people who are planning to return to the Mandarins in 2026, that is really tough. It's really like a loss. It is truly a loss. And so to anyone watching this that marched the Mandarins in 2025, or was planning on going back in 2026, or is planning on auditioning for the 2026 Mandarins, I totally and wholeheartedly encourage you to go audition somewhere else. Go and do the activity. Go and still don't let this kind of push you away from wanting to do it. I know your home may have been the Mandarins, but there's a home for you somewhere else as well. And so I hope that if you're watching this, that you really don't let this stop your drum corps journey. And if you have a couple more years, just know that most likely the Mandarins will be back, and so you can always go back. But yes, I can't imagine. I don't know what it's like to lose a drum corps like this. For those of you that march the cadets, you probably know what this is like, and even for the Vanguard, you know what that's like as well. So this is definitely a blow for anyone who is part of the Mandarins organization. And the last statement we're going to take a look at is from John Mapes, who is the percussion designer from last year, was his first year. And he says, "Hard to find the words to describe the disappointment of Mandarins taking 2026 off. I've been a fan of the group for many years and was excited to join the team in 2025. The percussion staff learned so much in our first season and we're excited for things to come. I discovered a newfound love of DCI in 25 and will miss all the people involved. Hopefully the Corps can use this time to get back on solid footing to be set up for 27. Bummed." So yeah, I mean, and if you guys have followed the last season, I'm a huge fan of the percussion team from the Mandarins last year, their new percussion team, and I was also looking forward to what they were going to do in 2026. But yeah, sad to see this disappointment across the board from everyone. But to wrap this up, guys, the Mandarins, like, I've been a huge fan of what they've been doing over the past decade. And I've always had, kind of just like a favorability towards them, and seeing and a belief that they were going to continue to rise through the ranks. And so I really hope that this doesn't, that the Mandarins are going to be back. Okay. I believe that they will, and I have faith and hope that will be the case. But B, also that this does not halt their growth. I hope that this doesn't really stop them, because something that you got to remember is that 2026, the Mandarins will not be fielding. That's just a fact. So that means everyone who is in that organization, staff as well, members and staff, they all don't have a home this summer, which means they will all disperse to other places, or they won't march. But most likely they'll all go and march somewhere else, which means that in 2027, all these other people, the people that were part of the Mandarins organization, will have found a new home. And in 2027, they have to start from scratch. It's what the Vanguard did. And a lot of people were loyal to the Vanguard, and they went back to Vanguard in 2024. But, this is super, super difficult to come back from. It's just tough to rebuild a drum corps like that after even just 1 year. So I have a lot of, hope for the Mandarins, and I hope that this is just, truly just one strategic pause for them to come back even stronger in 2027. And the bright side of all this, guys, is that, look, the Vanguard did it. Vanguard did it just a couple years ago, and they were successful, and they're even more successful. And so you know, hopefully that sets a precedent that this can happen and they will come back strong. But thank you guys for watching this video. If you guys have any thoughts about it, or if you want to, if there's anything that I said incorrectly or that I missed, please let me know in the comments. But if you have any thoughts about it, please let me know. Put them in the comments and I'll be taking a look at them. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.